Well, I hope everybody had an excellent Labor Day weekend. I am here to kick things off this week by talking some trash. That's what I want to do. I want to talk a little bit of trash about Hollywood, their flagrant spending, and extraordinarily large budgets on films and TV shows that have been coming out lately. Specifically, I want to focus in on the next Knives Out film because we now have an amount for what the budget is going to be for this movie, and it is staggering. I also want to talk a little bit about an Alien television show that I totally forgot was happening, and also we've got to mention Gandalf because Gandalf is in the news. As always, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, all of that, because it helps us a ton and helps this channel to grow faster. And most importantly, make sure to visit criticalist.com, and you can find us in the app stores, Android or Apple. Go ahead and give us a download and come in and drop a review, because we are an entertainment reviewing platform, and much more than that, just a very social experience. You can come in, make some friends, and talk about what you have been enjoying lately. So let's go ahead and dig into this news here, which is that the Knives 3 budget has come out, and it is 5 times larger than the original budget of the original film. Now, you heard that right. 5 times larger. Not 2, 3, 4, but 5. 5 times larger of a budget, and this is insane and honestly absurd. I can't wrap my head around how it could be bigger. Now, if you're wondering what the original budget was, down here in the article, they break it down for us. And the original film of the first Knives Out movie was $40 million, and the second film was right around the same. Now, if you are not familiar with the Knives Out series, this is a detective series that has been ongoing for several years now. And basically what happened with these movies is that the first one came out in theaters, and then it got picked up by Netflix. Netflix paid an ungodly amount of money for this franchise and the rights to release these films going forward as a series. So after the success of the first one, Netflix paid a whopping $450 million in March of 2021 to secure the rights to 2 Knives Out sequels. And these were set to continue starring Daniel Craig. And so with this, they're stating that basically Rian Johnson, the director, Daniel Craig, and the producer, Ram Bergman, earned $100 million for the 2 films. So this is kind of crazy. Everything about this is nuts. Now, personally, if you had asked me after seeing the first Knives Out film what this franchise would potentially be worth in the future, I would not have put it anywhere near this realm. I would not have been Netflix and paid that amount of money for it. There's no way that they're generating enough subscribers to make this purchase make sense to me. I can't wrap my head around it in general, but we've been noticing this as an ongoing trend with Hollywood, is that their spending is just getting higher and higher, bigger and bigger. Now, granted, we're dealing with insane amounts of inflation, but still, that's not what the conversation here is. And I mean, even this being purchased for $450 million back in 2021, we didn't have the level of inflation that we currently do. But if you would ask me after seeing the first one, is this movie worth all that? Is this, just that amazing of a franchise? I would be like, absolutely not. I mean, a lot of people like that first movie fairly well, and I think it's fine. Rian Johnson, honestly, if you know anything about him, then in the nerd community, he has a high level of stank on him that I don't think he will ever get rid of, because anybody who is a Star Wars fan knows the name Rian Johnson, and it's the name that must not be spoken for the film that must not be spoken, because it is accused of being the downfall of Star Wars as a whole, was when his Star Wars movie came out. So he already is not super loved in the nerd community, but I think people do give him a pass for this because this is more in the realm of what he got known for. Now, granted, if you had asked me many years ago or back when I was in high school, who one of my favorite directors was, I would have instantly said Rian Johnson, because he made Brick, and I loved Brick. I thought it was one of the coolest, most inventive detective movies ever. These teenagers solving this mystery about a brick of cocaine, and it was a wild story, and I loved it, and I wanted to see what else this guy could do, and he did follow up with some films that I liked, but then the Knives Out movie came out, and I was like, this is a fine detective story, but it honestly pales in comparison to what he did back in the day with Brick. And I think a lot of this comes down to, at least, and now this is my personal opinion, but one of the big things with Ryan Johnson is that he is extraordinarily tethered to his politics, and he just can't seem to step away from them long enough to not inject them into everything that he touches. I recently watched one of his shows that he did that was also a detective show, and I absolutely hated it. I thought it was a complete and total bore, and the critics sung its praises to the moon. And if you watch it, it is hyper political, to the point in which there is a character that is a dog in the television show, and they dubbed the dog the racist dog because it likes to listen to basically pro-Trump and or MAGA / conspiratorial radio, and therefore it is a racist dog. So if that tells you anything about where Ryan Johnson sits with things, he's going to wear it all on his sleeve, and that's how he operates. And I'm curious to see, as this movie comes out, what happens, because every film he does seems to lean harder and harder and harder into his politics. So the question is, how divisive is this going to be? And is it going to be worth $210 million to make this movie? Now, if we take a look, one of the things that I brought up was these constantly inflated budgets of these Hollywood films. And one of the big things that everyone's pointing to right now is The Acolyte. The Acolyte was made for $180 million, and that is a stinker of a television show that's already been canceled. Nobody liked it, and it did not wear that $180 million, very well. It did not scream that that's what the budget was, but this just seems to be a continuing trend within Hollywood. Now, what I did was, after looking at this, and I was like, okay, well, look, this is a series that is known for being a detective series. It shouldn't be super hi-fi or super high tech as far as the graphics, special effects go. There shouldn't be a lot of need for that sort of thing that would eat up a budget. And I mean, this series is known for having a lot of big players, and that's the thing that you got to pay Daniel Craig to be here. But also, every movie has a large cast, and they typically are larger stars. That was especially the case for the last movie, Knives Out 2. And this one's going to star Josh O'Connor, Glenn Close, Josh Brolin, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, Kerry Washington, Andrew Scott, Kaylee Spaney, Daryl McCormick, and Thomas Hayden Church. So there is a decent cast on this, and you can take a look. I pulled it up as well on IMDb because you can catch images if the names don't jump out right away. But this is still a fairly big cast, and then bringing in Jeremy Renner this time. Kaylee Spaney seems to be one of these up and coming actresses who was recently in the new Alien film and did a good job. We all know the rest of these names. So the names of people in it do have me interested, but on the same hand, I know Ryan Johnson, and I know the results you get. I haven't been super happy with either of these two movies, and I was really turned off on the second one in the beginning, but it warmed up as it went, but still just wasn't a huge fan. I just don't think these are extremely clever detective stories. But in doing this and looking at these budgets, I looked at another recent movie from this year that was very CGI heavy, and I pulled up Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and that is $160 million US budget on this. So $160 million, and we're going to come back. Knives Out 3 is once again at $210 million. This is a movie that has CG apes, used Weta as the company that did their CGI, who does like the best CGI known. And this was a 2.5 hour long movie with, a lot of special effects to it, and we're at 160 million, but this is at 210, if that does put anything into perspective. So the question is, what is going on in Hollywood? What is going on with these budgets? It's starting to feel like borderline money laundering at this point, because it doesn't make sense when you watch these things where these budgets could come from. Even if they have elaborate sets and are filmed on location at awesome places, 210 million is a lot of money. This is a whole lot of money, and I'm really curious to see what happens when this film comes out, and if we can see that $210 million, on the screen, because that doesn't track to me. I don't see that happening when you can make something like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes for $160 million. So this article in general perplexed me, and I want to know what is happening in Hollywood. What is happening with these budgets? Why are they so inflated and puffed up? I can't wrap my head around this, and it doesn't make a lot of sense why Netflix would be like, yeah, you made the other two for $40 million, but we're going to times it by 5, $210 million. Why not? And I looked to see what we know about this movie so far. All we know is it's called Wake Up, Dead Man, and this is apparently some sort of U2 song that I'm not familiar with, and they're calling it his most dangerous mystery yet. This is kind of piratey font here, or maybe biblical. It's giving those vibes, but they're saying that it's his most dangerous mystery yet, but also it's the third film. That's how you gotta everyone's got to be bigger and better than than the previous film. So it's kind of like obviously. So I don't really know. There's not a lot of information on this yet. There's no way that this cast justified that budget. I don't know where this money's going. I guess we're going to have to see when the movie comes out, but there was no way that I was not going to talk about this, especially after recently reviewing and talking about Milk and Cereal, which was made for $800, whereas this one, not close. Not close to $800. 210 million versus 800. So that's the thing too, where I'm sitting, where it's like where we are with technology, if anything, in a lot of sense, the budget should be going down. The numbers should be going down. We should not be spending more. Technology is getting better. Things are getting easier to create, easier to make, where we can see people make these found footage films and things for micro budgets. I understand that there's a lot more involved with this other movie, but still, this budget makes zero sense to me. And I hope that Hollywood is going to start learning some lessons from this, because these budgets just don't make sense. Now, moving on to the next little piece of thing I wanted to talk about was the next Alien project, because like I said, Alien Romulus just came out. We're sitting at a 73% on Criticalist by 65 people, and that's pretty good. This is a rad, I mean, a most excellent movie is hard to hit. It really is. That's one thing that we've noticed over time, is in that top 20%, that is a really hard place to be in. You've got to have a banger that is not very divisive and that everybody just pretty much unanimously loves. So a 73% is a really good rating, and actually Milk and Cereal, we have an official score there too. It's at a 70%. But anyways, Alien Romulus, 73%. This movie just came out, and now we find out, and I guess a lot of folks have already known this, but there is an Alien TV show being made, and it's going to be called Alien Earthbound, and this is going to be like the name states, taking place on Earth. And what actually interested me is the creator, and then also the cast involved with this. One person specifically jumped out, which is that it's Timothy Olyphant. And that man, if he's in something, I'm probably going to check it out, period. Olyphant is the man, and I love everything he does. That's the only name here that really jumped out. But they do have a synopsis for the show now, and it sounds like it's not going to be connected to Romulus, which is interesting. And obviously, with this taking place on Earth, where does this fit in the timeline? But it's clear that Fox, which is now Disney, seems to still see a lot of value in the Alien franchise, and they're really expanding. And so this show's being created by Noah Hawley. And he has done some other high-profile projects, the biggest one being the television show Fargo. Now, the most recent season of Fargo got a lot more political than the previous seasons, which I wasn't super pleased with. I think the first season of Fargo was hands down the best. This show also kind of has a track record of, with it being an anthology series, every season being a little bit different. I find that it's kind of like other series in that kind of genre, where they don't tend to get better and better. It's a little bit of diminishing returns. So, but either way, he did a great job with Fargo, especially early on, and he's done some other television shows too, and they all tend to be of fairly high quality. And they're saying that this is going to be planned and made to be an ongoing series. So this is not a one and done. This is not a single season and then it's over. But I did check out this trailer here, and it is interesting. I mean, they do tease a alien, which is good, because sometimes in television shows like this, you don't actually get the more CG and or practical effect things in them. So the fact that they're showing the alien here, even if it is very brief, I am interested. Obviously, they're teasing Earth within the skull of the alien and it taking place on Earth, and we haven't gotten a ton of that. That more harkens back to like the Alien versus Predator franchise. So I am interested to see what the approach is here. Obviously, not filming in space makes it a whole lot easier to make something like this and put it on Earth. And honestly, I think aliens on Earth could be a cool concept. So what it says here is that when a mysterious space vessel crash lands on Earth, a young woman, Sydney Chandler, and a ragtag group of tactical soldiers make a fateful discovery that puts them face to face with the planet's greatest threat. So basically, some young woman, not sure what role she plays in this, and some soldiers find an alien or a ship or something, and it's going to spiral from there, I'm guessing, with the aliens. So I'm interested in the show. It's pretty cool that they put out a teaser trailer. Granted, it sounds like we're not getting this till 2025, which is what it says on here. So we got a little bit of time to wait. Obviously, you need to strike when the iron's hot, so it makes sense that they would tease this now after Romulus is doing so well and did quite well in the box office also. So I am intrigued to see what they do with this television show and see if it can make the Alien fans happy, because that's been one of the biggest discussions, is that it seems to be the Alien fans can be quite hard to please because there's a wide array of them and they all have much different expectations. So last little piece of news here is about Gandalf, and they're saying that Gandalf is going to appear in a Lord of the Rings Hunt for Gollum film that is happening. So I mentioned this quite some time back, but basically they're doing more Lord of the Rings movies, but they're focusing on Gollum, which is interesting. I'm not sure if it's what we want or need. We'll see. It depends on the approach, but it's clear that Warner Brothers sees that there's a lot to be mined from this franchise, and they see that Amazon is crapping the bed at this point and really honestly doing damage to the franchise. So they need to kind of sweep in and start doing some new things. So it makes sense that we've got more Lord of the Rings coming, and we've got this other animated thing coming before long, but basically the rumor has been this whole time that Ian McKellen has been talked to about it, and it sounds like he's actually officially on board this time. But that the biggest issue here is just that they're not far enough along, and Ian McKellen is 85 years old. So if they don't get the move on, I mean, yes, every year that goes by, the man's going to look more like a wizard, but it's going to get a little complicated when he starts hitting his 90s, and it takes a little while to make films. It depends on if they're going to make this a multiple series kind of thing. Everything kind of revolves around how quick they can move with this film, and that's exactly what McKellen said as well. He says, I've just been told there are going to be more films, and Gandalf will be involved, and they hope that I'll be playing him, McKellen said. When? I don't know. What is the what the script is it's not written yet, so they better be quick, and that makes complete and total sense. They need to get the move on if they want him to be in this, but also don't be too quick that it's trash, because like it or not, we might have to have a different Gandalf if they want to take their time with this and make the series what it needs to be, because as we've seen with things like the new Lord of the Rings television show on Amazon, is that it feels more like fan fiction than actual Lord of the Rings, and everybody wasn't even completely happy with The Hobbit. Granted, I love all those films. I think they're great. The last one was a bit of a tough thing there, where they were really kind of having to drag out this into a 3-movie series, and they got away from being just about what The Hobbit was. The Hobbit book is fairly short, so they were digging for subject material there from other Tolkien works. But I'm interested in this. I'm even more intrigued with the fact that we could get Ian McKellen, but I also don't want Warner Brothers to rush this too much. But the fact that he said he's on board and wants to do this is pretty great news, and it sounds like Andy Serkis is really at the root of this, and that Peter Jackson is going to be involved to some degree. So all of this is good news, and it sounds like Warner Brothers is at least leaning in the right direction, and it sounds like they understand what made these originals, successful and what people like about them versus the things like what Amazon is doing. So this is all fairly good signs, but time will tell if they can pull this off and get it all out there in time and just not mess up and rush the series. But I did want to talk about it because with him basically fully confirming that he's game to be on board is good news. So this is just more of the OG cast kind of coming in and helping out to make this what it needs to be. So, guys, I think that is it for today. That's the news, and I will be back again hopefully tomorrow if there's some news. The news has been really rough as far as the entertainment industry goes of late, and just really touch and go. And as y'all know, I don't do the same old grift over and over again. I like to talk about new stuff and cover things that no one else is talking about. So let me know your thoughts on this Knives Out thing. I'm super intrigued and wondering what's going to happen with it. This budget is insane. What's happening with Hollywood? Why is the money going so crazy? Are they laundering it? What is happening? It's ridiculous and weird, and they're spending way too much, and it makes no sense. So let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. And like I said, subscribe, like, give me those comments, all that stuff, and I will see you again tomorrow. Later.